Hey friends, welcome back. This is my video for the first eclipse of eclipse season for the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's coming in on September 17th around 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is a Tuesday. However, you'll want to, as always, adjust for where you are currently, as that might change for you. This is the first of two eclipses this eclipse season, and just for review, eclipses hallmark quantum leaps in growth and development because eclipse events happen at the fated nodal axis, the gateways to the past and the future. Events that happen around the nodes signal massive quantum leaps in evolutionary growth. So the events that happen around eclipses can be more magnified. I think of them as interesting little bookmarks or chapter markers in the journey. Eclipses come in clusters and also string together, so it can be really interesting to look back at previous eclipse dates and see what was coming up for you, because you might see the themes sort of continuing within this eclipse. This full moon is also connected to a new moon back in March of this year. So it can be helpful to look at the month of March and what was coming up, and get some insights into what this full moon might be illuminating for you. Because full moons are always connected to a new moon 6 months prior. So that can be another way to lean into the magic of lunar and astrological cycles, to be paying attention to that. If that means going back in your photos on social media or leafing through a journal to kind of get a snapshot of where you're at, that can be really helpful. So full moon eclipses do tend to be more dramatic because full moons are energizing in general, and they hallmark a climax and illumination with the light of the moon and also the release of energy. And depending on the full moon, the release can feel like fireworks, like a celebration, or it can feel like a lightning bolt or like a shocking release. It kind of depends on the nature of the full moon and the aspects involved. This one is interesting. I will say to me, it's not looking like a super crazy eclipse because it's an out of sign partial eclipse. So the orb to this one is not super tight, but there are some very complex aspects being made that are bringing up some important subject matter for our growth at this time. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little crunchy, but then again, this Virgo season in general is a difficult one because, I mean, honestly, just the nature of the skies in 2024, because we have Jupiter transiting through Gemini and we have Saturn transiting through Pisces. So as planets in Virgo season drift through Virgo, unfortunately, when they get to the last decades, they form and make up this T-square in the skies. And a T-square is a traffic jam that makes things grating and crunchy and irritating, frustrating, and intense. So unfortunately, Virgo season is just it's not the happiest Virgo season I've ever seen, and it can be stimulating the shadow side of Virgo because of that. So what's the shadow of Virgo? Well, it's not the funnest part of life. It's kind of the darker side of the human mind that can get really lost in the myopic tasks of life, worry, anxiety. It's a little bit of like a glass half empty outlook. It can be about health in many different ways: mental, emotional, physical. And Virgo is where we are very much focused above all else on improvement in general. Virgo is always about making something better. It's about purifying something, decluttering something, cleansing something, and trying to scrub something clean, trying to make it perfect. But there's a maddening side to that where it gets really nitpicky and negative and critical, and it's where things just don't feel quite right, or at worst, they feel awful. They feel overwhelmingly imperfect. So, Virgo season is a little stressful. I do want to say if there's anyone out there on some kind of journey with their health at this time, this eclipse could hallmark a moment of illumination in that journey. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that if you are on a journey like that, there may be some kind of realization or information that comes through within this eclipse. So let's go into the alignment of this eclipse a little bit. So we've got the sun in Virgo opposing the moon in Pisces, and that makes the ruler of this full moon Neptune. Now, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces and is the polar opposite of all of the energies I just described, all those grounded, logical, analytical, nitpicky Virgo energies. Pisces and Neptune is exactly the opposite. This is the more celestial, watery, intuitive, and magical properties. So in the zodiac, in this eclipse, we have a pretty strong polarity between the two, actually. We have strong Virgo over here, and I say strong because Mercury, which is the ruler of the sun in this chart, is receiving an opposition, a very harsh, nearly exact opposition from Saturn. That is my least favorite part of this chart for sure. Saturn opposite Mercury is not fun in general. Like if it was just any regular astrological week, that would be a tough week for reasons I'll go into in a moment. But to have this unfortunate aspect within an eclipse, I don't love that because, as aforementioned, within an eclipse, the energies are going to be magnified. Simultaneously, we have a T-square coming over on this side from Jupiter, and Jupiter is, speaking of magnification, Jupiter is a magnifier. So whenever we have a full moon that's square Jupiter, it has kind of an intense, larger than life feeling about it, and it's going to magnify the energies considerably. So within this, we have this frustrating traffic jam of Saturn opposite Mercury. Now that's going to bring in difficult or challenging messages, difficult or challenging thoughts. This can even be difficult or serious conversations amongst people. Our South Node is in Libra. We'll get into that in a moment. So there is this kind of like relationship aspect that is also within this eclipse as well. But we have this polarity in the chart. On one side of the chart, we have Pisces, which is the illusion, the fantasy, and the magic. And then on the other side, we have the more realistic, analytical, logical side of Virgo. And this eclipse is really giving this reflection or this impression that there's going to be some element of fantasy versus reality, or receiving a reality check. And that's because of the Saturn opposite Mercury in Virgo. Saturn opposite Mercury Virgo is going to have that Mercury in Virgo thinking very seriously about whatever is on its mind, and it's going to be thinking about it in a very logical way, like what is really in front of me, what is really going on, what is the reality of the situation, what do I need to look at or face in order to make healthy improvements in my life. I think that that's a very big aspect of this eclipse, is sort of like a dissolving of anything illusory that we need to confront in order to have our life flow in a healthy direction and feel purified. So for that reason, it doesn't feel like the most fun eclipse, but it does feel kind of like a rinse in a way. And at this point, I want to look further into the chart with you to find out what other energies are at play that are going to contribute to what else is going on. And for that, of course, we look at the nodes. The nodes are a huge part of an eclipse. And we have the South Node, of course, in Libra. The ruler of the South Node is Venus in Libra. So very clear, Libra, we are talking about interpersonal relationships here and dynamics with other people. And lo and behold, Venus in Libra is opposite Chiron in Aries. Now, Chiron is also ruled by Virgo, so there is a Chironic element to this eclipse. That means that we're doing healing in relationships, but potentially by looking at something wounded within them. Now, the North Node is in Aries. The ruler of Aries is Mars. So Mars is sort of like our goal or our North Star in this chart. And that means that we're looking at the more exalted aspect of Mars in Cancer, which would be rest, restoration, emotional security and safety, feeling really cozy within ourselves, our surrounding, and our relationships, feeling safe and feeling nurtured, feeling emotionally supported. So it appears that whatever this eclipse is bringing in, even though it may require us to look at the reality or the more realistic nature of something in a Virgoic critical way, it does appear that the outcome of this growth, no matter how difficult it might be, is to actually come into a place within ourselves that feels better and feels safer, feels better for our nervous system in some kind of way. And even though this eclipse does have a lot of this Virgo energy at play, there is, of course, the Pisces side of the chart. So I do think that there could be a dreamy element to this if you want to lean into that and plan for it and plan to do something that accentuates creativity in some way, or magic, or your spiritual practice. It is available. Jupiter is square the moon, which can bring that in, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, the moon is next to Saturn, right? So if we actually look at the process of the eclipse, how it comes in, the real Saturn energy part is going to come in at 1 a.m. on Tuesday. So those of us in Pacific Standard Time will thankfully sleep through that a bit. But the Neptunian, maybe more magical energies will come in later in the evening on the eclipse and into the middle of the night on Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. I also want to point out how close Neptune is getting to the North Node, preparing us for our very, very exciting shift to North Node Pisces beginning of next year. So we are all in some way reaching for higher dimensions of spirituality, and that is only going to accentuate more and more in the coming weeks and months as that alignment, Neptune at the North Node, gets closer. By the way, what I just did here, looking at the tracking the moon through the time of day, that is something that we do over there on the membership a lot, where I really go through with you on your weekly forecast that you get delivered to you every Sunday. We go through the day to day and we really track the moon's movement through the sky so that you have an idea of what your entire week is going to look like Monday through Sunday. We also are going into the tarot over there. There's a community message board. It's awesome. And you get access to all of my courses. I'm also going to be putting out a really exciting course at the beginning of October. I'm so excited, and I'll tell you about that in the next video. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Looks like an interesting one. And the second eclipse on October 2nd is really, really an interesting chart. I'm so excited to go over it with you guys. It's one of the more interesting charts I've seen in a long time. It's very sensual, it's very mystical, it's very scorpionic. So that'll be coming in the next video. If any of you have been wanting to work one-on-one with a professional astrologer, I am available for readings at this time, and my waitlist is actually not too bad compared to what it normally is. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and reach out to me at coyotestarastrology.com. All right, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a beautiful, safe, mystical full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, and I appreciate you being here. Bye for now.